Hello, everyone. Welcome to our monthly live stream, our monthly client case study. I am smiling so hard right now because I was just talking to our very special guest, the client that we're going to be speaking to off camera and off air. And this is just really an incredible story. And it's going to be so inspiring. And not just that, it's going to be also very informational and transformational and tactical for you as well. So you're going to learn a lot in this next hour. And I'm really, really excited to dig into it. If you are here tuning in, hello to all of you who've already said hello in the comments. We are on both Facebook and on YouTube right now. So Ernest, hello. Hi, Nicole. Nicole from my team is here. Hi, Haley. Haley, a fellow Authority Accelerator client. James, hi. How are you? Dana, welcome. All right, so let's get into it. And if you're tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from. And let us know what you'd love to hear from Elaine today. Hi, Davina. Hi, Elle. Hi, Jennifer. Dragonette. What a cool last name. If that is your real last name, that's awesome. And be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe if you're on YouTube. We do these every month. Hi, Jen Boyd. Hi, Nicole. So many Authority Accelerator clients are here tuning in to show love and support. I love to see it. Hi, Tanya. Hi, Nadja. Okay, so many people here. So if you're on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to be notified every single time we go live, and also every time we upload a new video to this Authority Accelerator channel. And if you're on Facebook, be sure to give it a like and be sure to share this out with somebody who needs to see it. Okay, so let's dig in and get started. Hi, Lee from Texas and from Authority Accelerator. So happy you're here. Hi, Gloria. That's your real last name. That's awesome, Jennifer. Sunny's my real name, so I get that question all the time. Vicky from the Authority Accelerator and is also tuning in from Connecticut, I believe. P. Carr, hello. Randall from Alberta. Nice to see you here. Hi, Jacqueline. Jacqueline from my team is here. Thanks, Joy. Thank you so much. And Gloria from Nigeria. Wow, this is amazing. Okay. All right, so let's dig into our special guest today before we bring her in. She's quite incredible, so I want to give her a proper introduction. So let's just kind of paint the picture here to set the stage for the story that we're going to share today. So imagine this. You are burnt out, you're struggling with boundaries, and constantly exhausted. Maybe some of you can relate to this and let me know in the chat with a heck yes if you can. But you have a unique idea that will help your community and impact lives all around the world. The problem is you have no idea how to take this thought in your head, your idea, and structure it in a way that allows you to serve at your highest level and reach the people you know need it most. And then you find the exact solution to your problem, and in the span of 3 days, not weeks, not months, not years, the span of 3 days, you've sold out this program that was just a thought in your head. You figured out how to create a business that gives you the space to be the leader you know you want to be, and your income has skyrocketed. This is the story of Elaine Alec, who I'll be speaking to today. She's a client of ours in the Authority Accelerator program. And today, Elaine has managed to pull away from a scarcity mindset and the constant battle to overwork herself to generate $32,000 in less than 3 days, doing what she's truly passionate about, teaching others how to cultivate safe spaces. So this is the amazing story of how she went from having no freedom, flexibility, or control of her work schedule to building a thriving online business that has allowed her to work smarter, not harder, and become her own boss. We love to hear that. You know, that's the motto. And today we're going to be talking about how Elaine created a thriving and highly impactful online program helping leaders go from struggling with boundaries to cultivating safe spaces and decolonizing their practices. Such important work. It's our honor to be able to support Elaine in this way. So here's just a few milestones, and we're going to dig into also some tactical training today. So some milestones that Elaine has achieved in the last year. She spent the majority of her life living in a scarcity mindset that always put her last. However, after enrolling into our program, the Authority Accelerator, she realized she could create a massive impact and earn the income she dreamed of. Like I said, she's made $32,000 in just 3 days, and she's now continuing to sell her program and surpass her targets every month with her program as well. She enrolled 40 clients into the first launch of her high ticket program. And this past year, her company has a gross income of over $200,000. And her whole mindset has shifted, and she's been able to serve her greatest purpose by positively impacting Indigenous communities. So today we're going to dig into 3 very specific things that I think will be very helpful for you to hear. Number 1 is how the heck did this go from being a thought in Elaine's head to actually becoming a real course? Because maybe you have a thought in your head right now about creating an online course business and you just don't know how to bring it to life. We're going to dig into that first. The next thing is mindset, which is big. How did Elaine go from that scarcity mindset to abundance and to actually making it work for her? And the act of really showing up as yourself and why that's so vital to Elaine's story and to your story as well. And then the third thing is disciplined listening and pricing. We're going to tie those together because they both kind of go hand in hand. So without further ado, we are going to bring on Elaine. I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome, Elaine. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am so happy you're here. I'm good. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so excited to do this with you. And I'm so grateful that you're taking the time to share your story. You are such an inspiration to myself, to our team. We just love and adore you. And I know to the rest of the Authority Accelerator community, which there are so many of them here right now as well. So let's kind of dig in first and foremost. Before we get into kind of the tactical part of this, tell me about your journey as an entrepreneur.
I always share that I've always kind of been an entrepreneur. I think I started my first business when I was 8, putting up a lemonade stand on a main road in our community because I knew the Ironman triathletes went through there. And so I made like $80 in like a couple of hours for my lemonade stand. But I was always trying to find ways to make things work because my mom didn't want me to be a statistic. She didn't want me to go on any type of social assistance. She told me that I was born with skills that I would never, that I would always be able to work. And so always using your brain to try to find ways to do work. But I started my first business when I was 21 and I bombed at them because I was also a practicing alcoholic. And so didn't know anything about money, didn't know anything about, I had this poverty mindset where I spent everything that came in. So I was never really successful with business until I decided to get sober for one. And then also just start focusing on me and not other people, because my other businesses were built on centering other people and myself in the background. And so I took a leap back in, I think it was 2010 when I decided to start my own consulting company.
It's really amazing. I mean, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that. I know that's obviously very vulnerable information to share with everyone here. And I think it's just really incredible context to the journey that you've been on. And I think what you said about creating a business that really puts you first and your story first is what is a big part of how you've been able to create the impact that you've created. And I think that's so beautiful. And so many people need to hear that because oftentimes, and I know you've probably seen this as well in your journey, a lot of people will kind of look externally for how they should run a business and how they should create the impact that they think they should create based off of what other people have done and been successful with. But the minute you flip it and you go internal and you go, what really matters to me, and you build your business around that, that's when it becomes a legacy business where the impact and the income and everything that you are building will outlast you. And I really feel like that's what you've created now. So I want to dig into the first piece of this, which is really like you had the thought in your head for so long. And as we all do, you had the thought in your head for so long to create this program. And I don't even know if you knew you wanted to create it into a course or a program. And then being able to take that idea and really structure it in a way that it's serving at the highest level. So I want to dig into that in just a second. I also did just want to remind everyone here, if you are new to the Authority Accelerator and this whole concept, and you're like, wait, what is she talking about? The Authority Accelerator is our program. It's my business and our team is here. And essentially we help you take your skill set, your experience, your expertise, and your story and package it into a highly scalable online course business. And that's what we've supported Elaine in doing. So I wanted to just drop this info in the chat because my whole team is here right now. So if you are interested at all in the Authority Accelerator, the easiest thing to do is just comment below with apply. And Kayla, Jacqueline, or Sophie on my team will reach out to you about the Authority Accelerator program to see if it's a fit for you. So it's the easiest way to kind of dip your toe in and get started. So I've just put that into the chat for everyone here. And Elaine, let's dig into where this course idea came from and how it came to be.
Well, I've been a facilitator and planner for about 15 years now, and I was really good at it, but I was constantly being asked to travel all over the country to do these trainings and these sessions, because people said that no one can create a safe space like you can. Like the level of conversations that we have and how deep they go, we can't bring anybody else in but you. And so I started thinking about that. How can I develop something so I can train other people to do what I do? And how can I do it in a way that people can see themselves in it? And so I had an idea, but I had no clue what it was going to look like or like anything about it. I just knew that I had to do it. And then I started watching your videos 2 years ago.
On the elliptical, as usual.
On the elliptical, watching your videos. Like, I swear I watched about 100 hours of Sunny videos, like, in that first
That's a
year.
lot.
It was like, just, I kept thinking, I can create this course, but I can't imagine it online. Like, it's a really, special personal experience, and it's got to be in person. And I felt like that was the only way I could do it. But I used all of your tips to develop this, like, in person. And that blew up. Like, my in-persons blew up. And then I thought, maybe I can do this in an online course, because people were watching the recordings and saying that they were being impacted just as greatly by watching the recordings as they were doing it live. And so that was my biggest fear, was like, can I do something this deep and authentic in an online course and still have the same impact as I was getting from my in-persons?
And that is a big question for a lot of people. I think a lot of the times we think that the only way to deliver the information and make the impact that we want to make is to be in person with people. But there is an element of when you bring it online, your impact is able to reach even more people who need you. And we've had many examples of this, people we've actually interviewed before. I mean, a great example is Liz Sharma, who was doing in-person Portuguese lessons, European Portuguese. And she was, barely making ends meet at the time, charging by the hour, and then was able to bring it online when COVID hit. Monica, who's a dance instructor, her whole business shut down in New York. She had a dance studio and she brought it online, and she's now doing, $50,000 a month, which is just insane. So so it is possible in any work that you do, but it's only really possible if you're able to figure out the right structure for yourself. And I know for you, a big piece was you have this tendency to really overwork. And so did you find that coming up when you were trying to figure out how to structure this?
I did. I started getting requests every day to do my online course. And I was telling my husband, because I own two companies, and I said I could, like, leave my other company and just do these trainings every day all year round. And it was my favorite thing to do, but it was still burning me out, where I was just talking all day, every day, because these trainings were like 8-hour sessions. And so it was just getting to be too much. And I was having a really hard time saying no, because I was like, this work is so important. The more people know about it, the more change it'll make. And so I kept pushing myself, and I was doing crazy. So even though I was home, I still wasn't spending time with my kids. Like, I know I'm going to get emotional sometime during this session, but
That's
I
okay.
was like, my kids were, I was home, but they weren't seeing me, because I was constantly delivering these sessions that I thought were so important. But also neglecting my kids because they weren't getting to spend time with me, because I needed it completely quiet when I was doing these sessions.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. How many kids do you have?
I have 3, but 2 at home.
Oh my goodness, wow. I mean, I don't have kids yet, but I can speak to just like throughout my life, especially in my early years of entrepreneurship, I didn't understand the concept of like really being in the room with somebody, but not really being in the room with somebody. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? So it's been something that I've really had to grow into as well, is that like you can have a business. I know this sounds crazy, but you can have a business that serves your life and that allows you to be present, and you should have the opportunity to be present, because otherwise you're going to just deplete yourself and not be able to do the work that you know is so important, which is what you're doing with your program. So I think so many people need to hear that. So I appreciate you sharing that, because I think it's a lot more common than people know. So you have this idea for the program. You're starting to think about how you really want to structure it. One thing I really want to tap into, because this is something we talk about all the time, but I think we could say this till we're blue in the face, and sometimes people need to hear it in a different way. Your best business idea is always aligned with your own personal story. So how aligned is the program you have now to your own personal story and journey?
It's my program is basically built on how I've been able to heal myself and to work through my own trauma, to cultivate a safe space for me first, because I've had so many things in my past, from abuse as a child into my own alcoholism, to my own struggles with anxiety and mental health issues and all of those things. I had to learn how to be a safe space for me first, before I could be a safe space for anybody else. And so that was a lot of hard work. And so now I take that, my beliefs and the tools I've used to help me be well and safe and, inclusive and a good mother and a good colleague and a good partner, to help other people do that for themselves, but also bring it into the work that they're doing. And so it's my entire life. I use it in everything that I do and how I make decisions for me and my family, and my businesses, and the way that I work with other people.
But yeah, I mean, kudos for one, sharing that, and two, the work you do is not easy by
Mhm.
any means, and it's so deeply impactful, and it's so, I guess, like healing to hear that you, yes, are fighting for social justice and you have a diversity and inclusion program, but part of that is knowing that you have to heal yourself and take care of yourself, and you can't deplete yourself if you really want to do that work. Would you agree with
Mhm.
that?
Totally.
I think that's so wonderful to hear, because we do have clients who are in the same space, and that's one of the biggest challenges is you're doing this really impactful, really deep work, and it's very easy to give all of yourself to it to the point where you have nothing left. But then that doesn't allow you to serve the mission for the rest of time. So it's really incredible how you've been able to navigate that balance. How do you feel like the structure you've created with your program now has supported that for you?
I feel like so by the end of April, I am going to have 10 certified cultivating safe spaces facilitators.
Amazing.
And they are going to be able to deliver this program to the people that they know. And when people send me a message and say that they want these sessions, I have 10 other people that I can refer them to that can help take on this work. And so I'm not only helping relieve my time, but I'm also empowering other people to create their own businesses with this model as well, so that they can go on to do this type of training. But it's allowed me to really prioritize what it is that I want to do and what it is that I don't want to do, and know that I'm going to be okay no matter what, because I have this default. If I need to take a month off or 2 months off, that I'm going to be able to do that. Like, I can't even, it's not even in my, I can't even comprehend that yet. I can't imagine being able to take a time off right now, even though I could.
Isn't that a weird thing? But
I
what a
know.
luxury.
I don't know how.
That's, we call those champagne problems. They're the problems of being able to actually have a business that supports you,
Yeah,
and you can really take time away from it, and you'll learn. I promise
yeah.
you'll learn. I think we all kind of have to learn that. But that's just really awesome to hear, because I know that that feels so far out of reach, but you've done it. You've created something that supports you being able to support yourself first and foremost, so you can do this work. So one thing I wanted to touch on in terms of your course idea. So obviously super aligned with your own story, your own journey. Really, it is like a mirror for your own life, the impact that you're creating with it. And do you want to quickly summarize what your course is about and how it impacts people? I think people probably get the idea, but let's kind of go into detail on it.
Yeah, so my course is to help cultivate safe spaces for self and others to have really difficult conversations around reconciliation and decolonizing. Um, and that's kind of the core work, but people have picked it up and incorporated into a lot of different types of spaces. And so it's been really effective in a lot of other areas. But my focus has been on cultivating safe spaces to have really difficult conversations.
I love that. That's amazing. And you mainly work with
I mainly work with government and other planners and facilitators.
it's, which is amazing, because that's allowing them to create the impact in their fields in a big way.
Mhm.
So Very cool. Incredible work that you're doing. So powerful. And I know that there was a part of this for you where you obviously, like we said, we were thinking about this for so long and you had this in your head for so long. And then you were like, hey, I'm going to do it. I'm ready to do it. And so you joined the Authority Accelerator. You got the blueprint essentially of how to do this. And then you decided to put it out into the world and get your course out into the world. So tell me a little bit about what happened with that, because I think there's such a huge lesson in this.
I listen. Well, we're going to talk about it a little later, but I listened to you. I listened to your YouTubes and listened to your videos. And one of the things you're like, you just have to do it. Like you don't have to have it perfect. You don't even have to know, like you can design it as you're doing it and just put it out there. So I did a teaser post on my Instagram to say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this course and I'll probably launch it next week. And then I just started receiving a bunch of messages who wanted to get into it like right away. And I thought, well, I guess I can like open it earlier. So I just opened it up registration, and in 3 days, 40 seats, because I limited it to 40 people, and they sold out in 3 days, and people wanted to go on a waiting list. But I didn't even have the course outlines yet. Like I didn't even know what it was. I had an idea, but it was still up in the air.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, 40 people. I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to have to
Yeah, put the pedal to the
now.
metal. But I think, okay, so there's a couple big takeaways here. There's a famous quote from the founder of LinkedIn, and it's like, if you aren't embarrassed by the first version of your product, then you've launched too late. So like, I think that applies here for sure. And it's part of how we teach. It's that it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to look pretty. You don't need to have a brand and all this stuff. You need to know what the transformation is that you're creating, which you were totally clear on that. And then you absolutely, if you know the transformation, the outcome that you're creating, that's what people are investing into. So the curriculum then follows, and you're able to then create the curriculum in real time with your clients based on their real world feedback to ensure that it is supporting that transformation that they've bought into. And then you turn it evergreen, you package it, and it's ready to sell on its own. But I think that's really important to know that like, nothing should be perfect in terms of business when you first get it out into the world, because you're constantly evolving it, myself included. Everything is somewhat of a work in progress, and you just don't know what works until you actually test it and get it out into the real world, which is why we've created the program and the methodology in the way we have. So you sell it out in 3 days. How'd you feel when that happened?
I just couldn't believe it. I still, I just couldn't believe people were willing to pay me money to do this work. And, all those things go off in your head. Like, can I do this? Am I good enough? Like, am I just full of it? And like, all of those things are going off in my head. And so I don't know if I got to celebrate it. I didn't think I got to celebrate like the woohoo. It was like, oh my God, is this for real? I don't know how to feel about this, and I better deliver, I guess, or I don't know how I'm going to do this. But it was the way I started the program. Like my original in-persons was the same thing. Like I just did it and it evolved. Like the way I delivered it the very first time 2 years ago and the way I deliver it today is completely different.
Totally.
And I put things out there where I was like, I think this is what this is, and then build off of it. And I'm like, actually, no, it's more this way.
Yeah.
And just learning to adapt and evolve with it and be okay with that.
And I have to ask, do you feel like a big part of that process is also subtracting things, getting rid of things that weren't necessary?
Totally. Yeah. There was so much that was in there that I felt I had to do because that was the way other people did it. And then realized like the way I deliver it and what's important to me is that I didn't need to have all of that fluff in there, that I was just sticking to what, the things that impacted me. And so was able to like narrow down.
I love it. I think there's a couple things I want to recap from this step. So in terms of actually taking the idea you have in your head, and let us know in the comments if you have an idea for a course, feel free to drop it in the comments. If you're interested in being a part of the Authority Accelerator, you can put apply and our team will reach out so we can actually support and help you and figure out if this is the right fit. But a couple of things I want to take away from actually taking that thought in your head to creating it into a real program is, number one, that the more you're program aligns with your own journey and your own story, the more impactful the results are going to be for your clients, because it's your experience. So that makes you the expert. The second thing I wanted to say is be okay with it not being perfect. I know that there was a lot of talk before we came on here about like being okay with making mistakes, being okay with like, you know, having little flubs and flaws, because that's what teaches you how to optimize things and make them better, and ultimately serve your clients on an even higher level. But if you don't start, you don't know how to fix things and make them better as you go. And then I think the last thing I wanted to touch on here is just playing to your strengths. So I know you mentioned that when you would watch my videos, you would hear me say this thing over and over again. And it really applied to you selling out the program in 3 days, having this $30,000 launch before you even felt ready. Can you reiterate for everyone here what that was?
What I heard from, well, so can you ask me that question
Yeah,
again?
of course. So I think I asked it in a very confusing way.
Yeah.
So basically what I'm asking is, we talked earlier about like when you listen to my videos, you would hear me say something around knowing your strengths
Yeah.
and how that helped you in creating your business, because you didn't
Oh,
have to
yeah.
be like a one size fits all. You didn't have to do
Oh,
what I was doing. You didn't have to do what this person was doing. You had to figure out what worked for you. And that's a big piece of this methodology. So do you want to
yeah.
touch on that?
Yeah, that was because one of the things I was doing a lot of note taking on was your YouTube videos, how to do a good YouTube video. And then one of your videos you shared that I'm great on video. That's my experience. Like I'm good in front of a camera. And so this is like my best platform. But you don't have to do it, whatever it is that you feel comfortable and confident in. And so I was like, oh, I can do that. I'm a writer. Like I suck at YouTube. Like I try, but I just am really bad at it. But I'm a really great writer, and I can, you know, there's enough space on Instagram for me to share the way that I want to. And so I moved away from YouTube and I focused on Instagram. And when I first started, I had like 800 people on my Instagram, and I barely got it to go above 800. And now I have 16.2K followers on my Instagram. And it's like,
And not just any followers, like the right followers.
yeah, the right followers. I'm able to like share what I want and connect with people, and they're supportive, and they're like real followers. They're not
Yeah.
like the just randomly picking followers, but they're people who I engage with, who we talk about things and we connect with and we support each other. And it's weeded out the people that, you know, don't connect
Or
and
look
aren't going to support. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's a big thing to talk about. Like I often talk about the fact that you don't need a big audience, and also like if people want to unfollow you or unsubscribe, good luck. Like Godspeed and
Mhm.
good luck, and you're not for me and I'm not for you,
Mhm.
and that's okay. And I would much
Yeah.
rather have a very loyal audience on whatever platform it is, because then they're actually engaged and they're going to be moving the content forward essentially,
Yeah.
and more likely to take action. So those were all great points. Now let's move into number 2, which is a biggie. And please let us know in the comments if you've ever struggled with a scarcity mindset, or maybe you're struggling right now. But I want to talk about scarcity mindset and also the act of showing up and why that was so important to what you do, and also being able to take the action that you've taken with this program and this business. So let's start with scarcity mindset. Where did that stem from for you?
My scarcity mindset was just growing up in poverty. I grew up on the reserve in the Penticton Indian Band. It's in the southern interior of British Columbia. And I didn't really know that we lived in poverty because we had everything that we needed. I didn't realize we were in poverty until I went to school. And then when I got older and I fell into alcoholism because of the things that I had experienced, the trauma that I had, I knew nothing about money. And so when I did have it, I spent it because I felt like I didn't know when I was going to get any money again. And so I really lived in that, like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. So I was just constantly spending and going in debt. I was so big into debt. Like my credit was so poor when I was just starting to rebuild it when I started watching your videos. And me and my husband, we were living in a 1-bedroom basement suite with our 2 kids. We moved from another rental and we couldn't find any other place. And we moved in there, and then COVID hit. And we were still in debt. We were still doing all this stuff. So that money that I made from creating that course that first year where I was delivering it live, I made enough money to pay off our debt, and we put a mortgage down payment, and we moved into a house
Wow.
this past year. And all of this has been like that the hardest thing for me to feel and accept was to feel deserving of success, to not set up to not be my own barrier, to not be my own challenge, that I needed to be able to like step into that space that I am deserving of this, I am worthy of this, you know, to accept these good things into my life, and that I was deserving to grow and to put money into myself, because I was so used to spending money on everybody else and giving my money away, and not keeping anything for me. And so I always put myself last.
I hear ya on that so hard. And I think it's a battle a lot of people face in terms of really feeling like they are worthy of being seen, of being heard, like they have the value that they, have inside of them, and that that's worthy of the success that can be attached to it. And I'm curious for you, do you feel, I know it's such a journey, so I think this is a hard question to answer, but do you feel like there's anything in specific that really helped you move past that?
Um, I think it has been watching a lot of YouTube. I do a lot of my own work, and I do a lot of my own reflection work, and I've done a lot of trauma therapy, and I've done a lot of all of these things, but I'm constantly expanding and opening my, like, to be inspired. I'm always looking for people to inspire me. And so it was like watching your videos and watching Gary Vee's videos, and like those type of mindsets of like really like getting like pumping me up, right? Like, okay, I can do this, and just getting into that mindset and shifting it, instead of, questioning and going into that negative thinking and being my own problem. And so, yeah, just sitting there and being on YouTube. And I made a commitment to watch an hour of YouTube every morning about
Wow.
somebody who is inspiring to me, so that I could
Wow.
shift my mindset. And I practice that every day.
Do you feel like it's a very full circle moment right now that you're gonna be that person for somebody else watching this video?
Yeah, I can't even, I still don't get it. COVID messed me up too, because it's
Mm,
like you're growing this success in your bedroom or your office in front of a computer, and like we haven't done anything with it. Like, so we've been able to just have this,
yeah.
and not have to worry about paying the rent, not having to worry about, getting groceries, not having to worry about not having money. And now it's like all these little things that I've never taken any of it for granted. But I think stepping into the real world where I can like travel somewhere and not worry about where I'm going to stay. Like
Yes.
I've slept outside, I've slept in a ditch before. Like, to be able to be in this space where I don't have to worry about my own safety, and that I can have a place to sleep, and I don't, nothing's going to hold me back from doing the things that I need to do. It's really overwhelming.
Oh, no. I was like, "Don't start crying. You're gonna make it worse." I'm sorry, this has happened on so many of these. It's just, like, becoming a bit of, like, a problem. Um, Thank you for sharing that, and I think, like, it's so amazing for me to even be a part of this for you. But to know like the behind the scenes of your story, and to know that you would sit there and you'd watch an hour of YouTube every day, and like this is going to be an hour long interview we're doing, and there's going to be people who watch this, and it's going to be the first step for them to go, I'm deserving of success, and if she can do it, I can do it. And so you are now in the flipped position, and kudos to you, because what you've done and what you've overcome is not an easy feat. And it's much easier to just sort of surrender to the fact that that's how things go. Um, so I just wanted to say, like, there are so many people here, and I'm seeing in the comments of people just being so inspired by your story. So you're paying it forward times 10 right now, if not more. And I'm just really grateful to be even a small glimpse of like this journey that you've been on. It really is so incredible. And I'm just over the moon happy for you. So thank you for sharing. I know you warned me and said you were probably going to cry at some point, but I was like, which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's a wonderful thing. So thank you for that. So I mean, obviously that's a big mountain and hurdle to kind of walk up and move past. But I think another thing that you mentioned earlier to me is the act of showing up, which I think those two things go hand in hand, because the scarcity mindset was deeply rooted in, I don't know if I'm worthy of success. So to battle that as you're building a business, which does require you to show up and be seen and have a voice, How has the art and the act of showing up played a role for you? And how have you gotten to this place to feel good about doing that?
I think it's the practice of just doing it, and that was it, like, just hearing people over and over again say, "You just need to show up." Like, you don't have to be prepared, it doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be perfect, and just show up and just start. Like, you don't have to have it all planned out, and just trust yourself. And it's a lot of the work that I do around decolonizing and just like showing up as your full self. And that, we've been so taught to question ourselves, and we've been measured against each other and measured on what success means to some person and how we should adopt that. And it's all about like being a certain way and being prepared and perfect, and so that we know where we're going, so we feel comfortable in that space. But it so doesn't align with who we are and what we need as individuals, and how like that I share the act of just showing up as yourself is an act of decolonizing, to know that everything that you were born with is good enough.
Mhm.
Everything that you were born with is what you need to get through this world, to live your purpose and how you are.
I'm so curious, when you did start showing up in the way that you are, and when you sent that sentence to me before we got started, and you said the act of showing up as yourself is an act of decolonizing, it hit me really hard. And I'm curious for you, now that you have shown up and you are being seen as a leader and making the impact you want to make, how has that resonated with people in your community?
It's so, I people always say, "Oh, Elaine, you're so courageous. Like, you're so courageous to show up and just say the things that you say in these professional settings, in these corporate settings." I'm in spaces with ministers and lawyers and assistant deputy ministers and like people in like these levels of a decision-making authority, and I show up the same way every time. Like, I never change who I am to be in a certain space. And the more that I do, and the more people feel that they have permission to show up the same way. Like, I usually mirrored everybody else. And now people are mirroring me because I'm showing up as who I am, so people feel safe to show up as who they are. And the more we're realizing that the systems we live within suck for everybody. And so we all want that place of safety. We all want to show up in spaces to feel safe. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what your background is, how privileged you have or haven't been. Every human being deserves to feel safe in the spaces they occupy. And that means showing up as who we are. And to not be who we are is harmful to ourselves.
I literally have no words. Like that was, I mean, beautiful, and so needed, I think, right now to hear that. So yeah, I mean, that was amazing. And thank you. And I know, like I said, there's someone, if not more people, who are going to be watching this and thinking, thank goodness, this is exactly what I needed to hear right now. So you showing up is doing so much for other people to feel like they can, in such a big way. So I'm excited to see what comes of this. Um, and thank you for sharing all the insight on that, because I think it's really helpful in terms of the mindset piece and in terms of feeling worthy of being seen. So the last thing I wanted to touch on is the pricing part, because it kind of ties into what we've already talked about.
Mhm.
So pricing and then disciplined listening, which is something I've actually never really heard before. And I've talked to a lot of our clients, I've talked to a lot of people, but I thought it was really interesting to hear you say that. So let's dig into the pricing piece first and then discipline listening, because I think those also go hand in hand. But how did you, coming from a place of feeling like you have the scarcity mindset and having the scarcity mindset, how'd you tackle price?
When I first thought of doing, when I got over all the other hurdles and said, okay, I'm going to do an online course, my original goals were, I'm going to sell my course for like maybe $200 or $250 a course. And I'm going to sell like maybe 10 or 20. And I'll be okay if that's what I sell. And then when we started getting into the course material and we were challenged to do pricing, I really had to work my way into it. I had to write down a few different goals. Like, okay, if I do this for this and this for this, and I started off like, maybe I'll do 1,200, maybe I'll do 2,000. And then it was like working myself up to, okay, maybe I'm going to do 2,500. okay, maybe I can do my full offering of my course for $4,000 and I'll be okay with that. And I still wasn't okay with it right until like we launched it. I was still like, I don't know, maybe I should like put a price out there that's not as, not that big. Are people really going to want to do this? It's on, and all those things that were holding me back through the whole process picked up again.
Yeah.
And so I worked up to that. And my goal was to sell 5 courses a month at $4,000. And I was going to be happy. And I launched my online course on April 1st.
The evergreen, just to clarify,
yes.
The evergreen version of it, meaning that like now it can just sell on its own. Yeah.
Yes, the evergreen version. And that was crazy because I get emails now that, oh, you sold a course, so-and-so signed up. And I'm getting these emails and looking and like they paid this much money on their credit card to buy your course. And I've already sold those 5 courses and it's the 11th. And I'm getting calls all the time or messages saying, can you set up a call? Like, can you set up a call with me? Because I want to learn more about your course and I'm not having to call people.
I mean, that is the magic of Authority. That's why we call it the Authority Accelerator. Like you have built something that works. I know that sounds like a novel concept to everyone here, but people often get so consumed when they're creating a course with, I just want to jam it full of information and I just want to add this and this and this to it. And it needs to look perfect and it has to be perfect. No, people are buying the outcome. People want to know that the thing works. And when the thing works, people talk. And when people talk, it leads to you being the authority and the go-to for this. And that's what's happened. And so I'm so not surprised that this is happening for you. And I just think it's amazing that you're far exceeding your projections for this. And I know this is just the beginning for you as well. So in terms of like how you feel now, especially this month, knowing you've surpassed your target and it's only 11 days into the month, how does that affect your mindset?
I still don't believe it. I'm still in like this, well, I shouldn't, because this year I started saying, well, maybe I can like take my whole family and our babysitter on a family trip and we're going to go to a different country. And that's like never been a goal in my life. Like I've never had the goal to own a house. I never thought I'd ever own a house. And now to like think I could bring my entire family on a family trip to another country and pay for it is like, I just don't even believe it. Like it's happening, but I don't believe it.
And I just have to say, this is so common. Like I've been in your shoes and obviously we have so many success stories inside of our program. And I've talked to a lot of our big success stories. And one of the biggest things that they say is, it hasn't sunk in yet. And I still feel that way very much so in my own life and business. And I think that's not a bad thing. You know, it's like your reality hasn't caught up to, or your brain hasn't caught up to your reality.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the worst thing in the world because it keeps you grounded in what matters, which is the impact. And you just deserve this and so much more. And like I said, I say this a lot, but I know it's just the beginning because at the end of the day, you have the foundation. You have built such a solid foundation for your program and you have such solid impact and results. You have those things. You have a program that works and delivers a transformation and you have the results to back it up. It's impossible for it to not grow and scale from here. So I can't wait to see where you're going to be in a year. So let's talk about the disciplined listening part because I found this so fascinating because like I said, no one's ever really said this to me before. I asked you, what do you think was one of the biggest keys to your success in the program? And that's the thing you came back to me with. So what did you mean by that?
So disciplined listening is one of the challenges I put out to everybody when we do work together. I say we don't need a communications plan if we have the discipline to listen. People don't listen to each other. So I take that approach in everything that I do. And so when I watch the videos, I practice the discipline to listen. I don't allow my brain to take over into problems or buts or maybe this or I couldn't do that. Like I clear my mind and I practice the discipline to listen to the words that you're sharing, and then I can implement them into the way that I'm doing things. And so I always say, like, one of the favorite things I heard from your intro was that there are no stupid questions, but there are lazy questions. And when I see people struggling, I'm thinking, well, if you go over the course and you listen with discipline, you'll have the answer. Like everything you need in the course is there. Like you just need to listen. But I think when we're learning, we get caught up in our own brain, in our own challenges and our own problems, that we're not really listening to what's in front of us with that open heart and open mind.
It is so simple, but so powerful, because it's very true. And obviously, having an online course like we do with the Authority Accelerator, it's one of the biggest things that I see. People ask questions, we're happy to support and answer them, but oftentimes it's something that they actually have heard in the program. But we come into anything in our lives with this preconceived notion of what we think is right. And I find it always a little bit mind-blowing when people want to invest in doing this work and getting to the specific outcome, and they've invested into something they know works, but yet they still want to do it their own way, which wasn't working. So it's very fascinating to me. And what you said about that was just so simple. And I think the most genius things are the most simplistic. And so I wanted everyone to really hear that. And I hope you practice disciplined listening as you heard that. Because it's true. If you can just listen with an open heart and open mind, it makes all the difference in you actually being able to do the work and reduce the friction and getting to the outcome that you're seeking. We're going to wrap up because I know you do have to run and you're actually in the midst of doing a workshop right now. So thank you for taking the time to do this. If anyone has any questions, we'll do a quick little Q&A in the chat for Elaine. And then I just have a few wrap-up questions I wanted to ask you. If you think about your life before the Authority Accelerator and after, what are the biggest differences to you?
Oh my gosh. Before the Authority Accelerator, I was really unsure of the work that I was going to need to do to keep up. And after the Authority Accelerator, I feel like I don't have to worry about my own security, that I can relax and I don't have to be responding anymore. I can actually plan for my life and to plan around the life that I want and not respond to how I need to keep up.
Oh, what a gift. Also, can you please let me know when you go on this family vacation with your babysitter? I would like photos, please. That will make me so happy. What a gift. What a gift. And I think it's what we're all seeking so much, is to be able to be in a life where you don't have to be reactive and you can actually be proactive and kind of sit back and take a breath. I know there's somebody watching right now for sure on the elliptical, tuning in, thinking, I've been watching Sunny for a while. I've been hearing about the Authority Accelerator for a while. You know, I love Elaine's story. I'm interested, but I'm scared. What would you say to somebody who's thinking about enrolling in the Authority Accelerator? What would your advice be?
I think it's that moment to ask, like, what's holding me back? Because a lot of times, like, we have all of these excuses for what's holding us back. And they're not really excuses. They're just things that we're putting out there because of fear. And like stepping past that fear to believe in self is the only way you can do it, really. Like I see so many people who go to school to learn business, but aren't good business people. And I see people who get into business who are really successful at business do so because they have a belief in self. And just being able to take that step forward. Like, I believe in myself so much that I don't need to have the answer. I don't need to know the outcome. I just believe that if I put that step forward, that foot forward, that I'm going to figure it out and I will have all the tools I need inside of me to respond to that. And so that was it. Like, I didn't know anything about online courses. I didn't know anything about, like, it was like, so I had it so overly complicated in my head. But I decided that I'll figure it out. I'm going to listen and I'm going to pay attention and I'm just going to do it because I am deserving to feel that freedom. I am deserving to step into these spaces to do this work in this way. And my knowledge is just as good as anybody else's. And especially as a woman and two, as an Indigenous woman. To be able to move past that, because spaces weren't made for women to be in like that. So claiming that space also, that I'm just as worthy and deserving to be in this space.
Couldn't agree more. It's an absolute honor. Can't even tell you. I pinch myself every day that I get to do the work that I do. And I cannot believe that what I do for a living is elevating amazing people like you to make the impact that you're meant to make in the world. I still don't get it. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me that this is my job. But I'm so deeply, deeply grateful. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your inspiration. Thank you for your beautiful words. I know there are going to be so many people who resonate with your story and are just grateful that you showed up. So thank you so much. And I can't wait to hear the update, 3 months, 6 months, a year from now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. Be sure to give this a like, subscribe to the channel if you're on YouTube, and be sure to share it out with somebody who needs a little dose of inspiration and hope today, because it was jam-packed. So thank you, everyone, and we'll talk to you very soon. Thanks, Elaine. Bye.
Bye.